Okay. Welcome to the 2016 Pine Island Mayor and City Council Candidates Forum for the 2016 general election. This event is sponsored by the Pine Island Chamber of Commerce. I am Stephanie Nuttall, President of the League of Women Voters of Winona, and your moderator for this event. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to become educated and participate in government. While we as a league do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties, candidates, or tell the voters how to answer referendum questions. This forum is intended to provide voters with information so they can make an educated choice on the ballot. The views expressed in this educational forum are those of the candidates. In order to ensure a fair forum that maximizes the information provided by the candidates, there are a few ground rules that the audience should be aware of. We would like to remind everyone, please turn off your cell phones and pagers. Pictures and videotaping which are not authorized by the League of Women Voters or the Pine Island Chamber of Commerce are prohibited. The audience is expected to be courteous to the candidates and good listeners. The audience is asked not to express support or concern during the forum and to hold their applause until the end of the forum. This forum is being recorded and will be posted online on the Chamber of Commerce website. The format for this forum provides each candidate with the opportunity to make a 2-minute opening statement. Candidates will then have 1 minute to respond to each question posed by the moderator. We will begin with 6 predetermined questions, which will be followed by questions submitted by audience members. Audience members should submit any questions you have in writing to Nate right here on the end. Excuse me. Questions should be submitted to the question sorter in writing. The sorter and the moderator will determine questions to be asked, and attempts in good faith will be made to cover all areas of interest expressed by the audience members within the time period. Questions should be directed to all candidates, not one single candidate. Questions that are hostile, partisan, embarrassing, inappropriate, or of a personal nature will not be asked. Questions on similar topics may be grouped. Candidates have not been provided any questions in advance by the League of Women Voters or the Pine Island Chamber of Commerce. Finally, candidates will be given an opportunity to provide a 1-minute closing. Candidates will strictly observe their time limits on responses. The timekeeper will be holding up cards to indicate whether time is about to expire, and once the stop card is displayed, candidates will stop at the end of their current sentence. A rotation will be used to determine which candidate will provide their statement or respond to the question first. Candidates have been placed by position for which they are running and in alphabetical order by last name. The candidates for 2 Pine Island City Council seats are David Friese, Mike Hildenbrand, Albert Jobs, Craig Pike. Ryan Schaefer could not be here this evening. The candidates for Pine Island Mayor are Tammy Kester-Engel and Rod Steele. The candidates have agreed to allow me to use their first names during this forum. Now we will begin with opening statements. David?
Hello, my name is David Friese. Thank you for coming out tonight and participating in this event. This is my first time, so this is pretty exciting. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Pine Island. I graduated from Pine Island High School back in 2002. I've been in Pine Island throughout my whole life, except for 6 years I was up at the University of Minnesota getting my degree. Came back to Pine Island against my own will originally, because I was one of those kids that wanted to go out and destroy the world and do big and bad things. But I came back to Pine Island, and I've lived here. This is my home. I'm a 4th generation here in Pine Island. And I've been privileged to be brought up to understand the importance of community involvement. That's one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to run this year. I wanted to continue a practice of excellence that our city government has been doing. I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to continue that. I also thought I have the opportunity to be a younger person on the council and start taking on some of that responsibility that my generation has, and not continuously push it on to those that are older than us, realizing that I have a duty to serve, and I have that opportunity tonight. So that's why I'm here. I love this community. I've been involved with this community for the past 13 years now that I've been able to join different groups. I'm a member of the Pine Island Toastmasters, the Lions Club. I've been involved with the Historical Society. I'm involved with our local school, which I very much enjoy doing. I don't work in Pine Island. I teach in Rochester right now, and I enjoy that. But I've had that privilege of being able to serve and work in our town. So getting to do those different activities gives me an opportunity to see things on a local level, and hopefully I can move forward and continue to move our community forward.
Good evening. My name is Mike Hildenbrand. Thank you to everybody that came. Sincerely, thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, to the Chamber, to the city for coordinating this. This is great. The chance to put this out to the public, I think, is very important. Lived in Pine Island 13 years. Moved here from the cities. My family is in the second row there. My wife, Stephanie. My 3 kids, Amanda, Henry, and Sophia. My wife ran a business for 8 years when we first moved here, was a daycare provider in town. So we got to know a lot of people that way. We love this town. Running for city council purely on a love of community, a desire to make sure we live in the best town we can, and that I leave a legacy for my children. Have considered public office for a long time, strongly considered school board. Had to go apologize to our superintendent. I'm a huge supporter of our school system, and I don't hide that at all. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Albert Jobs. I moved here about 25 years ago from the cities. I graduated from Bloomington, Lincoln. I was born in Europe, son of a career soldier. Moved all over the United States, lived in Europe for 9 years. I moved to Pine Island because I had extended family that lived in Pine Island and wanted to raise my kids in a small town. Growing up in a big city, you see a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. And coming to Pine Island, I learned a lot about community closeness, awareness, community involvement. I've been involved with volunteer organizations throughout my post-high school history. I've always been involved in something. I wanted to get into local government. I wanted to make a difference. I fell in love with Pine Island, the people of Pine Island, and I thought with my information technology background as a computer analyst for 20-some years, working for Fortune 500 companies, project leader, systems upgrades. I've done everything from hardware to software. I currently work for a local nonprofit organization in Rochester. I've been there 10 years. And I believe in best practices, financial accountability, and think that I can make a difference here in Pine Island, working for the people here, and looking for support of all our candidates. We have great candidates. Thank you very much.
My name is Craig Pike. Just want to say thank you for everybody for coming out. I think, as everybody else has mentioned, so I won't beat it up, but I'm glad everybody was able to come so we can discuss some of these important topics. I hope for some hard questions. A little bit of background about myself. Like I said, I'm Craig Pike. I born and raised in Pine Island, so I'm 36 years old. Grew up here. My family's been here for about 150 years, so quite a while. Similar to some of the other folks, I ran from Pine Island when I graduated from high school. I went off to the big city, thought small town was, I didn't want to do the small town thing. So like I said, I lived in Minneapolis for a number of years, went to school there, met a girl, changed my life, to be honest. We got married, decided we were going to have children, and things came full circle basically, and decided where's the best place that I could think of in the world to raise children. It was a small town in southern Minnesota. Back to Pine Island we came. We've lived here now about a decade. We have four children in the school district here, all little ones. Work at Mayo Clinic. Again, I've worked there about 10 years. I work in their business development group, so I do mergers, acquisitions, partnerships, stuff like that. So kind of a number cruncher guy, and kind of my background. And that's the main reason I kind of ran for city council is we're here, we've been here about 10 years, and we don't plan on going anywhere. And I think there's some potential for us to squeeze some more juice out of our dollars. And I think there's some potential gains there to be made. So, thank you.
Hi, welcome to everyone tonight. Thank you for coming. My name is Tammy Kester-Engel. I grew up in Chatfield, about 25 minutes south of Rochester, so I am a small town girl. Moved to Pine Island in 2008 with my family. I have 3 children that attend the Pine Island School District and are very involved in some summer sports and events. We've grown to love the community, and I decided to run for mayor candidate because I wanted to be able to help the community change and grow. And I see that there's a lot of opportunity available to us as Rochester also grows. I do work for Mayo Clinic, have for about 9 years this time, was previously there for about 8.5 and left for a little while. Had a business in Chatfield. I understand the importance of community, networking with our peers, and listening to our community members and what's important to them. So I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you tonight and look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Rod Steele, and I just want to say thank you for all the people at this table for your willingness to participate in the process. It's not easy. You're going to be like a referee once in a while, but little towns, small towns survive on volunteerism, and our town is no different than that. So people that volunteer their time and energy to help this town, it's wonderful, and everybody should congratulate these people because it's not an easy endeavor. My name is Rod Steele. I moved here in 2002 with my wife, Michelle. We moved here to facilitate a shorter drive for her. She's a middle school teacher in Northfield. And I am a full-time real estate agent in specializing in Pine Island, Zumbrota, Orinoco. I have a business on Main Street. I've invested in the community and I give back to the community. And because I am in the real estate business, I kind of a self-appointed ambassador. So I spend a lot of my time selling Pine Island to prospective people looking to buy homes. So, and I get a lot of feedback on why they're looking here and why they're not looking here. So it gives me a good finger on the pulse of what people are looking for. And once again, I just want to thank all the candidates for participating, and looking forward to your question.
Thank you, candidates, for your opening statement. You will now have 1 minute each to respond to our prepared questions. If you need to have a question repeated at any point, please let me know. Mike, you will be responding first. What motivated you to run for mayor or city council member, and what specific changes do you wish to accomplish during your tenure? Please draw upon your background and expertise.
Thank you. All right, so we'll do the microphone. And can you, now that I have a clear head, can you repeat it for me? Thank you.
What motivated you to run for mayor or city council member, and what specific changes do you wish to accomplish during your tenure? Please draw upon your background and expertise.
What motivated me to run? I like to be involved. I like to be involved in the process. I like to have a hand in what's going on. Very transparently, I was approached to run. Had I considered it? And I said, yes, I have considered it. And this seemed like a great year. Specific things I hope to achieve. Is it possible to repeat that section of the question again?
What specific changes do you wish to accomplish during your tenure?
Specific changes. Funny, I'm not really laying to make any drastic changes. I think our city's headed in a good direction. We have a lot of hard work ahead of us. We have a lot of infrastructure improvements that need to be made. We have street improvements that need to be continued. We have a sewer system that is in desperate need of repair. I mean, those are real things. Once you get those handled, then certainly it's fun to look at the other things, the recreational things, and just the recreational things and, you know, the fun things we can do in town.
Same question. Same question. Okay. I'm running for city council member because I think we have a good start here on, our infrastructure is pretty decent. Our roads are good. We don't have a lot to complain about here in Pine Island. Financial accountability, I think, is very important for the city government. We do have a lot of high budgeted things that people are asking for and do need attention. The pool, the sewer system, or the sewer plant. I have a background in information technology. I did Y2K. I had 9 months to complete Y2K as a systems engineer when most companies had 4 or 5 years to work on it. I got it done on time, under budget, and believe it or not, no errors, which even surprised me because the deadline, quite an accomplishment. Thank you. I guess I'll just hand it over from right there.
Thank you. As far as what motivated me to run for city council, I think the main thing, so like I said, we moved here about 10 years ago, and honestly, I didn't plan on living in town very long. I planned to move out in the country and buy an acreage and whatever. And the longer we've stayed here, the more we've kind of become vested in town, and we don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. And I think it's really basically that I now have skin in the game. We don't plan on leaving town, and like I said, I think Pine Island, to your guys' point, is headed in the right direction, but I do think there's some improvements that can be made. The main thing as far as changes, I think, and I wouldn't say necessarily, change maybe isn't the right word, but maybe a process improvement kind of thing, is related to long-term planning. It's kind of what my background's in, is projecting. Like I tell my kids, I like to tell them that what I do for a job is try to tell the future, is what I tell them. Specifically related to finances. And I think long-range planning is something that I think we can definitely improve on.
I decided to run for mayor because in talking to a lot of the families that attend the sporting events and other events around town, I heard the need and desire from a lot of individuals for change in our current policies, our current processes and procedures that we have here in town, as well as a need for transparency and communication from our leadership. I believe that my background of 22 years in community service as an emergency medical technician in my hometown of Chatfield will serve me well, as will my educational background in leadership and project management. Thank you.
Hi, I'm the incumbent candidate, and the reason I'm running for mayor is I'm not one that quits in the middle of something. I've got some things very well defined and what we'd like to see happen. We started 2012. We made great progress. The town got a referendum passed that we'd failed on numerous times. We erased a $3.65 million contingent liability on that bridge. We've made great strides in our street projects. As far as change, I do think we have to address the pool situation. We have to have an ongoing plan on how we're going to revitalize downtown. And we have to have an ongoing process to continue to improve our streets and infrastructure. Thank you.
Why am I running for city council? Growing up, my nickname in high school was Mayor Friese because I promoted this town. I love this town, and everyone said I wasn't going to leave, and here I am. And I had pushed it off, and I'm running. I'm running because I was asked by many people in this town if I would consider taking on the burden. And I jumped into it. What would I look at changing based on my experience? I ran the A&W here in town, and I've been involved with different community clubs here in town, seeing the things that this town wants and what they need. So what am I looking at changing? Really what I want to do is I want to promote this town, and I want to promote business to come to this town. If that means having to make the tough decisions, looking at redoing the sewer or the wastewater treatment plant to get those businesses into town and giving them the opportunity to be here, I'm going to do that. I would like to be a part of that and work with my fellow candidates on moving the town forward.
For our second question, we will start with Albert. As mayor or city council member, all are required to represent the council within certain committees of the city council, such as planning and zoning, park, EDA, budgetary, etc. Which committee do you believe your background and expertise best fits and why?
Well, coming from information technology, that is really a strong suit for me. But I just received my my associate's degree in business. Currently working on my bachelor's degree in business and science, and to go on to my master's after that. Business is a big part of my life. I work different areas of it at different times, whether it's banking, insurance, manufacturing, currently in the medical field. I think the Parks Department is really what I'm interested in. I'm an outdoors person. I see a great need to improve our parks. We have the properties out there, we just aren't developing them. To be creative and maybe generate different kinds of funding ideas and perhaps get some of these goals for the kids around here who have nothing to do or no place to go, and to keep them out of trouble. So I think parks area is definitely my expertise.
Can you repeat the question, please?
As mayor or city council member, all are required to represent the council within certain committees of the city council, such as planning and zoning, park, EDA, budgetary, etc. Which committee do you believe your background and expertise best fits and why?
Thank you. So budgetary is honestly it's what I did for about the first 10 years of my career. I was in a budgeting and forecasting role at several different large multinational corporations, so that one would fit right up my alley. EDA is what I've kind of honestly spent the last probably half a dozen or so years of my life doing, which is partnerships, acquisitions, affiliations, etc., negotiating contracts, all of that kind of stuff. So those two fit right in with basically what I do for my day job, honestly, even though some of my interests would probably lie in some of the other committees. But as far as my background, that's where it lies.
I think in order to best represent our city, I would serve well on the Economic Development Committee. This encompasses not only bringing business to the community, but also building the necessary infrastructure to sustain the citizens of the community and invest in our community by bringing in dollars through things like grants and state funding. Where I work right now, I do work quite frequently with the federal government as well as numerous foundations bringing grant dollars to Mayo Clinic for research funding. So I'm very familiar with those processes and think there's some opportunity for exploration and growth in that area for us.
We are what's called a weak mayor system in Pine Island, which means the mayor is one vote on the council. They do extend one opportunity to the mayor, and that is to coordinate and name people to the committees. Believe me, there's a lot of them, and it's important as a mayor you're involved in all of them, and I have been. And I think it's a situation where I look at my present position, as a coordinator and as a budget overseer, where you have to look at those committees and make a determination on what's going to happen next year in the budget. So it's more of as a mayor, it's more of a coordinator than a certain committee. I do serve on EDA. I serve on a number of committees, but I go to them all.
What committee do I think I'd best do well on? Any one of them. I would take on any challenge that I would be assigned with these committees. I think an exciting committee that I would enjoy having the privilege to serve on would be the planning and zoning. You get to be part of what's going to be coming into Pine Island. You get to help facilitate that. You get to communicate what's going to happen and have that input on what you would like to recommend to the city council to vote on, and being able to help plan those potential businesses that want to come into Pine Island, and getting involved with the residential part and helping with the zoning regulations on that as well. I forgot, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So with a card full of notes now of what I forgot in my opening statement, I'm a 3-year director on the Cheese Festival board. Very proud of that work. Was involved in moving the festival from Main Street down to its current location. Like it or love it, it's what we did. This year will be its 3rd year. So I've worked very closely with the Parks Department, with the Public Works Department. I have a good relationship with those guys. I understand the mayor assigns council people to a committee. I'm with candidate Friese. I would embrace any challenge given and dig in and see where we can take it.
Thank you. For our next question, we will start with Craig. Do you believe current taxes are too high, too low, or just right? And are there changes that you would make to the taxes?
Thanks for letting me start on the loaded question. I appreciate that. Tough to say. I would say it depends. I mean, honestly, do I think they're a little too high for what we get? Yes. When you compare to the other cities that are similar size in southeast Minnesota, depending upon how you do the math, we're in the top third or top quarter as far as tax rate. Do we get some of the amenities that some of those other communities get, whether it's a pool that's been mentioned several times, the expansion of parks and baseball fields and all that kind of stuff that some of those other communities have? No, we don't, honestly. So I would say for what we get as far as bang for our buck as we sit today, yeah, they're too high. Is the decision that can we manage our dollars better to move our tax rate down, or do we keep it where it is and add some of those amenities and try to manage through? I think that's the real question.
Having lived in another small town previously and a couple of different counties as well as Goodhue County, my personal experience and in talking with some of my peers as well, I feel that our taxes are too high, like candidate Pike indicated, for what we get from it. I think some of this draws from the fact that being in Goodhue County, we have a couple larger cities, Red Wing, for example, where they may experience more amenities from those taxes. I think there are opportunities where we can learn from other communities in the county on how to better use those tax dollars so that our citizens get more bang for their buck.
I wish I had more than a minute. I think taxation, first of all, I want to say in the 2 years, 2 of the 4 years I've been involved with the city's portion of the taxes, next year they're actually going to go down. Now, we're about 30 to 40% of your tax bill. There's school, county, whatever else goes along with it. So the city's portion next year, because we've grown, is going to actually go down. So are they high? Yeah. One unfortunate thing about council and mayor is you get the job of prioritizing. We have prioritized, this administration has prioritized to get the infrastructure done. It's not glitzy, it's not glamorous, it's not fun, it's not a pool, fire hall, library, it's not anything, it's just very basic infrastructure improvements that we are way ahead of our peer cities. We are actually ahead of 2/3 of the cities of our side in the state of Minnesota, our size in the state of Minnesota, in infrastructure improvements. So we're happy about that. It'll be a long-term thing.
Taxes. Well, I owned a home here in town, and sad to say I had to choose between paying for my house or paying Wells Fargo for my student loans. So Wells Fargo won. And that was a frustrating decision. So I understood what the taxes meant when I bought that house. Do I think Pine Island's taxes are too high? One thing I do hear from people, mostly businesses, small businesses, is that they feel that their taxes are too high. Well, how do you fix that? The solution I hear people ask is if we can get larger businesses to move into this town. So what can we do that, to invite those businesses in and spread that tax stress out and not lay it on the residential part? But the responsibility is that we have to be able to fund ourselves. We have to be able to fund the street projects and the sewer and the water, and so we need those taxes. It's how they're managed.
Yeah, we do need those taxes. There's unfortunately no way to run a city without them. There are infrastructure issues, streets in the southwest part of town. There are things that have to be addressed. It's just like a home budget. Things aren't always fun to spend money on, but you have to. We're would be as council people entrusted, obviously, with the taxpayers' money. So, make the best use of them. Where can we build, new businesses, a tax base? you know, try to look for opportunities to lower them. We would come on to council inheriting, you know what is here and years of, you know, where the city has come from. So you have to take what you're given and manage it as best you can.
I stand in agreement. I believe the taxes are too high for Pine Island as well. Again, not to coin a phrase, but the best bang for your buck. I think, again, we need to look at best practices, financial responsibility. We need to find a way to grow our tax base from bigger businesses to welcome them into Pine Island, maybe give them tax breaks to bring their business here. And while at the same time maintaining the business that we do have, we have a responsibility to try to help these mom and pop shops stay open and service our community. I think being responsible for our taxes is important to give us the great roads that we do have. I think there's only a small portion left to do, and we're done in Pine Island. I think we're stuck between a rock and a hard spot for now, but the infrastructure is pretty solid, and I think we need to support that. So hopefully everybody is comes up with some creativity to help that along. Oh, sorry.
I'm used to it when everybody has their own mic, so we're making this up as we go. For our fourth question, we will start with Tammy. What direction do you see Pine Island going in the future?
So direction for Pine Island. I think pretty much the only way that we can feasibly go is we need to go up from here. We've got a great base to start with. We've got some wonderful opportunities on the horizon. We are a fantastic community. We really need to market that. As our current mayor said, bringing new families into the community and understanding why they want to live here. The proximity that we have to Rochester is a wonderful draw, and with Mayo growing as it plans to, we really have a great opportunity to bring more families into the community and grow and build that infrastructure, maybe spread the taxes a little more evenly so that we're all feeling like we get a little more for what we have available. So definitely the direction for Pine Island is up from here.
I agree. We're going to hit 20 building permits this year in Pine Island. We haven't hit that since 2004, 2005. That is residential growth. That is the reason when I mentioned our tax is going to go down a bit is because our tax base went up because we have growth. I think there's no way that this town won't continue to grow. We invested heavily in infrastructure. We've got a brand new county road that's going to define the south border of our town. We've got a frontage road. We've got commercial property all the way from our interchange all the way out to Elk Run. We are better postured as a community right now than any community in southeast Minnesota when it comes to developmental and commercial developmental property. We have a plenitude of things that we can grow with. And I think the word is getting out there because we're starting to get a lot of inquiries. So I'm very happy about that. I think we're going up.
I'm going to agree with our mayor on that. Our town is positioned in such a unique place, and for what we are capable of doing. Geographically, I see our town moving south. Morale, I see our town moving up thanks to our school system. The comments I hear working in Rochester is they admire the town and our school system. And that's exciting coming from a school district that I work in. So when you hear about the positives that people say, I hear more positives from people outside our town than I do inside our town sometimes, which is fascinating. Our town is poised to be able to grow, bring in some of those families in with the school district, and seeing that change and being able to manage that change is one thing I'm excited to be a part of.
12 years ago, I've said 12 years, it's 13 years. This October, I made a pitch to my wife that we move to Pine Island from the Twin Cities. I have that same optimism that I sold her with. Funny. Pardon me when I'm passionate about something. This is where it goes. So I have that same optimism I did 13 years ago for this town. We are, I think, in the greatest position of all the towns in southeast Minnesota, geographically, I mean, just everything. You know, the Elk Run area, like it or love it, it's there, and it's gonna happen. And Pine Island is a great town.
I agree with the rest of the candidates. Pine Island is going to grow. There's no way to stop it. I mean, council responsibility, mayor responsibility, help from the citizens, help from your communities. This town has nowhere to go but up. This is not a dying town. As long as we keep making responsible decisions, we keep putting one foot in front of the other. I share Mr. Hildenbrand's passion on this as well. It's why I became a Pine Islander. And I don't have any plans to leave anytime soon, so I would like to see this through. I would like to share my passion with the rest of the council members here and mayoral candidates. That's all I can add to that.
I think I'll give my answer in two parts. Residentially, yes, we're growing like crazy. In my subdivision alone, I think probably are 12 of the permits that Mayor Steele mentioned. They're building like crazy, and I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. Commercially, I think is a different question, honestly. I think, to your guys' point, geographically, are we positioned great between the Twin Cities and Rochester? Absolutely. Do we have some of the commercial property available with the Elk Run expansion? Again, absolutely. The second part of that question, though, is we've been sitting there waiting for that to happen for years. I'm not quite sure that I have a clear understanding of what's going to change in the immediate future if we don't change. I think we have, like I said, I think there's a great opportunity there. There's land to be expanded upon. It's ready to go, but I think we need to change our approach a little bit to really push that home.
For our next question, we'll start with Rod. What is Pine Island's role in the greater region of southeast Minnesota?
We're the gateway to the north. No offense to the Zabrota advocates. I think we are Rochester's neighbor to the north that's the most progressive, that's the most advantageous. We're situated 12 minutes from north end of town. I believe that we will be the wave. We won't follow the wave. I think we're going to create opportunity through innovation and vision that will put us in a position where the other towns eventually will be very envious. And I like the way we're going, and we will make that happen out there at Elk Run. If it's not our land, so unfortunately, we're dealing with a developer. It's his land. The city can only do so much. We can certainly incent them to develop and incent them monetarily, but we can't make a developer develop land. Thank you.
What is our role in southeastern Minnesota? I like how the mayor phrased that. We are the gateway to the north. I like to look at ourselves as unique in that sense that we are the envy of different towns around here. Our school district alone is one thing I think that we have that we can showcase to southeastern Minnesota, and what we can provide with our school district and what we've been able to do with our two buildings. That poises us to be a role model, but I also feel that if we have the opportunity, like the mayor said, if we can provide those incentives for the developers, we can't make businesses come to Pine Island, but we can provide those incentives and invite them. And we have the land to do that. We have the land to provide to people to move here and build homes and bring their families here. The school district's doing that, so we have that incentive to be a role model.
Can you repeat the question for me?
What is Pine Island's role in the greater region of southeast Minnesota?
Well, we are the envy of all the other towns, right? I think we are. I enjoy being an ambassador of, excuse me, of our town. I'm in a sales consulting position. I cover all of southeast Minnesota. Much like the mayor said, I'm a big ambassador for our town when I'm out in my professional life. We are poised for greatness. There is work to do. We do need to promote that greatness, to potential businesses. We have a lot of growing that's happening and a lot of growing that needs to be done to continue to be unique and desirable for people to live here.
We're very fortunate to have the Douglas Trail in Pine Island. I know other towns, cities share that trail as well. It's heavily used. It's sought after by outdoor enthusiasts. We're fortunate enough to have the Pine Island Fire Department in our community who provides emergency care to people who pass through Pine Island, whether on the back roads or down Highway 52. Highly trained, experts in what they do. We have some great businesses, sometimes hard to find. I think signage would be a little better if we could get them on the highways, pointing out what businesses are in Pine Island and are available, so we can strengthen that opportunity for growth and spending dollars to our businesses that are here in Pine Island. I think that's all I can add to that.
To borrow a phrase from one of the, I think it was Mike that mentioned it, we are poised. I do think we are poised to be the leader, honestly, in Southeast Minnesota in growth. I think geographically, I know we beat it up a couple times geographically, but being between the Twin Cities and Rochester puts us in a great position that nobody else can copy. We're closer to Rochester than Zumbrota. We have land available for commercial development and residential development for that matter. So we're poised to be the leaders in Southeast Minnesota and grow as fast, honestly, as we want to, I think. It comes down to that execution, that execution point. Do I think we have the opportunity? Absolutely. Do I think we're starting to see it on the residential side? Again, absolutely. I think we're starting to see some of that growth, which I think will double down over the next year or two. I think we'll continue to see that growth. It's really on the commercial side, I think, where we need to, like I said, kind of get our hands in there and really grab and see if we can move that along as well.
I think Pine Island is somewhat of a hidden gem. We have a very unique location with our proximity to both Rochester and the Twin Cities that provides great opportunities for our citizens and individuals who would come to our community. We need to learn to market ourselves better and let the outside world know about the amenities that we have right now, the access to the Douglas Trail, our wonderful school system and the opportunities, the programs that they provide. We're one of the only school systems in the state that offers an orchestra, especially for one of our size. That was a huge draw for us. The events that we have here in the community, Cheese Fest, Winter Fest, we really need to become an example of how to successfully grow, integrate, and innovate.
Start back with David. What makes you the best candidate for a position, for the position for which you're running?
Well, I have the luxury of saying my youth at this table. I'm not going to taunt them. What makes me, what was the second word you said? The best candidate. Enthusiasm. I have enthusiasm for this town. I have enthusiasm for this council. I would say my involvement on the community level is enough of an example, the different committees I'm on, the clubs that I'm a part of, because I enjoy the experience I have in this town. And I would also say some of my experience between working in law enforcement. I've worked with the fire department. I'm in education. So I have not just one specific thing that I do. I have a bunch of experience to draw on that I can bring to this table and push this town forward.
Excuse me, a friend of mine helped me with the two words that I've used on some campaign signage here this fall, involved and determined. I get involved. Once I'm very determined, relentless. I always joke with my fellow Cheese Festival board members that they probably most of the time wish that I wouldn't come because I have a passion. I don't quit until things are right, things make sense. That can't be done. Well, if it's the right thing, it needs to be done. we need to figure out a way, how do we make that happen? Love of town, love of community, and a drive to do what's right.
Really difficult. You got excellent candidates here. I think I'd be the best candidate. My experience in all the different fields that I've worked in, mainly in information technology, but for many different companies, all Fortune 500 companies, many different project levels, many different budget levels, from $1 million to many millions. 56 employee, for one example, $72 million a year. A lot of responsibility for each employee to generate that much revenue. Again, great candidates here. It's hard to really pat yourself on the back and try to go ahead with this. And I agree with Mike 100% on what he said. I don't even want to repeat it because it was that good. Great job, Mike.
What makes me the best candidate? I think technically speaking, I would say my background in strategic planning, budgeting, forecasting, all of that good stuff, which is not exciting, but it is what it is. So I think that kind of stuff gives me a good technical skills for a background. But honestly, I care. Like I said, I've lived here my whole life. My family's been here for generations, and I don't plan on going anywhere, and I expect my kids to live here when they grow up. I hope that they do the same thing I did. They run off to the big city, and they come running back, realizing that the big city's not all it's cracked up to be. So, like I said, I care. It's simple, but it's the truth.
This is a tough question. What makes me the best candidate? I don't know if I am. Honestly, I want change. I want to help this community grow. If I get the mayor position, my promise is to deliver to you the same thing that I deliver to all of my customers. Down to earth, hardworking, honesty, openness, and a willingness to go the extra mile when it's needed. A drive to do things differently when it needs to happen, and to find a way to get things done that need to be done.
I guess I don't like the word best candidate. I would say this, experience counts. I spent a stint on the park board. I spent 2 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission when we redid our comp plan. I spent 1.5 years on council and then became mayor. It's not a position, it's hard to walk into it. I can tell you right now, Tammy is a very qualified and very good candidate. All these people are up here. We're very fortunate to have this group of people. But experience in the mayor's position does count. You're coordinating, you're fielding all kinds of media responses. It's something that really does matter. I don't know if I'm any better, but I think I'm probably more experienced.
And that is the end of the prepared questions that we have. Just a reminder that if you have any questions that you would like to make sure that the candidates answer, please see Nate to get those written down. We've received a few of them, but it won't quite fill all of our time, so please keep the questions coming and we'll make sure those get answered. For this question, we will start with Mike. We're going back to the business questions. There is a general concern with businesses closing down in Pine Island. Do you frequent Pine Island businesses, and how frequently?
That's an awesome question. I do frequent Pine Island businesses. Admittedly, more so in recent years, more so as I've lived here and the more I've become involved in the community. I could say, and you could look at my grocery bills, I bet we do 80% of our shopping at the local grocery store. Our local restaurants and establishments. I'm a believer in a small town hardware store. If you walk into Hardware Hank, I've never left there with not having what I needed. I walk into Menards and it's I can't take it. You know what I mean? You walk in, the owner walks you to the bowl. Here it is. Here's what you need. You know what I mean? It's most of the time it's like, no, Troy, I got this. You know what I mean? We need to promote that. We need to build a sense of community where people do shop here.
I can honestly say that I shop in Pine Island. I work in Rochester. I enjoy shopping in the stores here in Pine Island. You probably gathered by now that I am a Pine Island firefighter. I share this passion amongst all the firefighters that we try to keep all our business in town when possible. It's one of those things. We've had members that own stores, that work in stores, that appreciate our business, and we feel that we're obligated to give that business to them, and solely by the service that they give to us. So that's the commitment that we seem to have, and it seems to be a long-term commitment that's happened for many, many, many years. Admittedly, I will shop in Rochester if I'm on the way home and I need something in a hurry or I can't get it in Pine Island, but the Pine Island shopping in is pretty good, and the products are great, and the service is excellent. The people are nice. We'll continue to do so.
I shop in Pine Island every day, honestly. I'm at Quick Trip or Subway or Troy's every day, it seems like. As to your point, Mike, evidence also by my debit card receipts would also illustrate that. I do think it's important, especially as you mentioned, the hardware store is a great example. That small town experience, I think you can't beat it. You go in there and it's kind of like some people will describe Target, honestly, how they go in there to spend $5 and leave spending $100. Seems like the same thing always happens to me at Troy's. Go in there for some nuts and bolts and leave with some grill tongs and some whatever else he's got on sale. So, but yeah, that small town experience, you can't beat it.
Yes, I do shop in Pine Island almost on a daily basis. As the other candidates mentioned, we have the unique ability here, as they said, walking into Hardware Hank and talking to Troy, to have that person know you by name, to know what you're working on, to know what you need, to be able to walk you right to it, and point out something else you might be forgetting about is an unbeatable experience. It's something you can't get at Walmart or Target. Unfortunately, I do have to stop there once in a while if it's something that we may not have here, and the convenience of being on the way home as well. But it's great to have opportunity and businesses here in Pine Island. I'd love to see some more businesses come into town, some of those little craft shops and flower shops and things like that that some of our other communities have, so that we could frequent them as well.
Yes, I'm an advocate. I buy my tires here. I buy my lumber and materials for my renovation of my building. I eat at all the restaurants, as you can tell. I do frequent. I think I've been in most every business in this town, and I've made it a point to do that. And because that's what's really neat about a small town, is we are a community and we are closer than a big town because we've got the familiarity and we've got the sense of loyalty and the thing that drive people to come together. And I saw in 2010 a very passionate situation. We had that flood. We had people helping each other out. This is the passion that drives this community, and this is the same passion that drives Mike Hildenbrand, and the reason our patrons are so good at our citizens are so good at patronizing our local businesses. Thank you.
Yes, I do shop local. I have a hard time buying in Rochester, and my wardrobe will attest to that because I can't stand shopping for clothes. So yes, I do. I can name 9 businesses off the top of my head that I've walked in personally this week. And growing up, my mom was adamant that I understand the importance of supporting your local business. One of the frustrations I have is people say that they want to support local business, but they don't want to pay the prices, so they go to Rochester. And we have one of our own business owners over here, Miss Bonnie Gackey, that I've gone to her shop since I was 5, and her husband said he was going to nail my feet to the chair so I didn't move. So I've been going to businesses in this town since I was a child, and that's why I like to see even our local business owners coming up to the forum up here. And so I am a proponent of supporting local businesses, and local owners can tell you that.
That's okay. It's complicated, I know. I think we've received quite a number of questions about business, so we're just going to continue on this same line of questioning. move with this one. We continue to see businesses closing down. What can be done to fill these businesses again? Taxes, even on empty buildings, are still very high. And for this question, we will start with Albert.
That's a good question because I think a lot of us residents want to know why businesses are closing down. Is it the fact that the community is not shopping in these stores? Are there other reasons? I think that's something that we need to have the city council and the mayors and EDA. We need to have these answers. We need to know what's going on. We need more involvement and more answers, and maybe more creativity to help them out. Maybe there's things that we can do to help them. I think it's important that we don't lose any business in Pine Island. I think it's important that every vacant building be occupied. We need to grow this town, and that's something that we can all participate in.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, long term, the answer is try to build your overall commercial base to reduce your overall taxes on the remaining businesses. Obviously, that doesn't solve anything in the short term. The short term is really attempting to drive demand to those businesses' storefronts. And I know there's ongoing activities where we have, you know, weeknight. I can't even think what it's called, but they have like a ladies' night out thing. I know the hardware store does, and I apologize, I can't think of the name. Where they cater to different folks to actually drive them into the organization. I think we need to attempt to, like I said, drive traffic by their storefronts. And whether that's moving the car show back uptown like it used to be, different things like that, like I said, to try to get people in front of those storefronts. Without that, like I said, it's really a longer term solution. So.
I think we have a lot of options and opportunities that we can explore. We need to talk to our current business owners and find out what's going on with them, do kind of a pulse check, talk to some of our past business owners. Why did they leave? What happened? And look at what potential business owners do we have that are interested in looking at Pine Island, and what can we do to encourage them to move in here. We need to, like Craig said, have events that highlight those businesses and get individuals in front of those storefronts. With our access from 52 being a little more limited than it used to be, we really need to encourage individuals to really come into Pine Island and not just stop at Quick Trip and turn around and leave. We need to market the businesses that we have and really promote the opportunities and options that we have available here.
There's reasons that businesses close, and I think we're trying to categorize them into failures. That isn't always the case. I think David will concur with me that A&W was very successful. He had 5 of them, and that was the best one. Kenny Arell retired. There are reasons these things. Now, what we haven't done maybe is set up a long-range program to incent younger business owners to come in and invest. One thing that will drive business is growth. Residential growth, it's slower, but those residents will demand service businesses to take care of the population or of their needs. So I think, and the other thing about talking about transparency is a lot of these things are confidential. Nate Carlson, our EDA director, can't walk up and say, this guy's looking at that building and he's going to buy this building. We can't do it. They need to be confidential. So.
This is a loaded question. Talking to local business members and seeing some of these businesses closing, what can you do to encourage these businesses to stay open? Like the mayor said, there's various reasons why they close. We don't always understand that. What floors me is when you talk to people who get upset about a restaurant closing, when's the last time you went and visited them? Well, I never did. Then why are you complaining about them closing? You like to see them, but you don't want to go visit them. So how do you get those people to walk through that door? One thing I would like to see a continuation of, and maybe pushing more for, is encouraging and working with the EDA and the Chamber of Commerce to promote those businesses. You can't get a clothing store to move downtown. A JCPenney's is not going to move downtown, so what kind of businesses can you attract to those downtown businesses and buildings to fill those up? And that's a good problem to have because you can be creative.
I don't know if it's better to be first or last for sure. A lot of good things have been said. businesses on Main Street that are either closed or closing or sold or for sale is very alarming to me. Because I do like to shop local. I am proud of our town. Ooh, we're losing our skirt. We gotta laugh, right? Let's laugh. I've already cried, let's laugh, thank you. We have to be creative. We have to look at our space. We have got a cool Main Street. You know, you think of other little towns with cool downtowns, you know, Northfield. We have one of those. We have a cool, old, historic Main Street, and I'm not an EDA expert. That area intrigues me, and I'd like to learn more about it and get involved in that, and what can we do to promote our town.
That somewhat leads into our next question, which is along the same lines of what the last two have been. All we are hearing is that we need to bring more businesses into town. What are you going to do to support and promote the current businesses in town? And for this question, we will start with Craig.
So as far as supporting, I think it's very critical to understand what are the needs and what drives our current businesses. And it's a varying spectrum, right? We have everything from Quick Trip to M&M to Troy's, and they attract all different kinds of people. M&M is not necessarily attracting just people from Pine Island, where Troy's, I'm assuming here, the large majority of his business is coming from Pine Island. I think it's really critical to try to understand who their customers are, and again, how you can drive those customers to their door.
I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is encourage collaboration. We have some great events in town that not a lot of people know about. The ladies' night at the hardware store, the sip and shop events that are held at the Legion and other places. We need to encourage our businesses to work together to help support each other and to bring more people in. And as a city, I think it's our responsibility to help them with those opportunities and advertising and help them get the word out about those events. We have some opportunities for marketing that I think we could capitalize on, maybe working with the state and county for some signage and things outside of town so that people understand what we have available and they come in and explore and investigate.
Council and mayor, you got to be careful advocating for a particular business because there's a lot of businesses. So, you know, what we can do as council and mayor candidates are support those businesses whenever we can and however we can. We do offer a lot of loans through our EDA. We've got paint up, fix up loans. We're a great bank, low interest. You have to pass one board. Qualification board, and you're there, and we do extend a lot of possibilities for financial help. The website that we're creating, not only Chamber, but the city is going to do a little more to promote what we've got. We're looking at a QR code, for those of you familiar, down at the Trailhead Park that might outline all the businesses in town, point out their location. I got to go. These questions are tough.
Supporting businesses, I think a way we can do that is, like the mayor said, you can lead by example and showing that you're going in and supporting these businesses. Like you said, you can't support just one business. You have a lot of businesses in town. Back in 2008, 2009, we had a program called Buy PI that when they talk about businesses working together, that was an opportunity. One of the struggles that we had back then that we still have today is a website where you could get people to go to that website and see that a website is updated and it looks attractive and it's easy to use. And utilizing that technology, that's how you're going to be reaching a lot of people that you want to draw into your town and drawing them to that website, and then that's how you can see your businesses working together. The council is going to be limited on what you can do specifically to get those businesses to support, but you support what you do have, and that's through the EDA and the chamber.
This feels like I'm last again. All right, good. David said it, it's leadership by example. Support our businesses, you know, help them promote. We have, You know, we have a chamber that has struggled. We have a new, young, aggressive chamber director. You know, that's awesome. Those businesses, you know, businesses can come together, you know, figure out ways, you know, amongst themselves, they can do things together. Yeah, set the example, promote our businesses.
When I think about any endeavor that I've ever taken on as an employee or a facilitator or a mentor, communication seems to be the biggest failure of why a project goes down or something doesn't work out. Collaboration. Going back to the website, our website does need work. It needs to be fresh. It needs to be updated. It needs to be user-friendly. That's a technology specialty that I do have. I don't always enjoy it, but it's a necessary evil. One of the other things that we need to think about is we're all ambassadors. Everybody in Pine Island is an ambassador. It's all our responsibility to make this town grow and to support this town by shopping in the stores and supporting each one in our community.
One more business-related question before we move on. There were a lot of questions from our audience on this topic. How does Pine Island compete for businesses in the southeast Minnesota region? For this question, we'll start with Tammy.
This happens to be an area that I'm extremely passionate about. Businesses in small town communities have an opportunity to offer something that Rochester doesn't have. Your Walmart doesn't have it, your Target doesn't have it, you won't find it there. And that is, we know our customers. We know them because they are our friends, they are our family, they are our neighbors. We have the opportunity to provide service to individuals like no other they've ever seen, and that is going to be how we generate that business, how we keep that business, and how we create that loyalty and grow our customer base.
I keep getting back to this, but growth is going to be the biggest reason that we acquire more businesses. And as we grow as a community, the demand for those support services are going to grow just with it. So I think I like where we are. Our land is relatively cheap. 12 miles down the road, commercial property is much more expensive. We've got a lot of it. This is going to happen. It isn't going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen. And we do talk every week to prospective businesses, every week. We can't tell you who they are all the time, but we do. It's an ongoing discussion that we have every week with prospective businesses. So I like where Pine Island is. I think we're going to continue to grow populace-wise, and I think that'll drive the business climate.
Competing for businesses against others throughout southeastern Minnesota, one of the unique things we have is I like to showcase the Better Brew Coffee House. She's probably one of the greatest ambassadors this town has for competing against other places around southeastern Minnesota. And the guests that she gets to come up here, it's unique and it's fun to see. But also, like the mayor was saying too, how do we get even larger businesses? How do we compete to get them here? Well, we have to be able to provide them the infrastructure to come. One of the frustrating things I've heard is when you hear that there's businesses that want to come, but they can't because we can't supply the means of supporting them. So they have to look. Obviously, they like Pine Island. They came here looking to come here, so we need to be able to provide the infrastructure and the means to support them and get those businesses here. They want to move here, so let's allow them to do that.
Could you repeat the question for me?
How does Pine Island compete for businesses in the southeast Minnesota region?
Gosh, I feel like I've a little bit redundant. We've got to promote what's good about Pine Island. Where we're positioned in relation to Rochester, the price of our land compared to Rochester, in relation to the Minneapolis airport. That's an easy place if people have employees coming and going. you know, that's an easy route to make. Yeah, I mean, we are positioned in a great place. We need to get out there and promote it to businesses.
I'm sorry, I've lost track of the question, but I'm gonna try to put this together anyway. We're fortunate to have 2 airports near us, north and south, servicing Mayo Clinic, servicing the cities, international. Again, one of the things I think we need to look at is signage. If people don't know what we have here, they're not gonna stop here. We need better signage on the highways. Obvious, you see Subway, you see Quick Trip. It's gonna make you wanna stop in for gas. You're probably gonna wanna eat. We need to be thoroughly pursuing that part of growing Pine Island. You can't grow them if you can't get them here. The commercial part will come. Elk Run wasn't meant to be built in 5 years or 10 years. It was a long-term project. We will have to be patient on that one. It may develop, it may take 20 years. When that develops, Pine Island will really grow.
I think when it comes to commercial businesses, I think it's kind of in 2 different pieces. I think with basically what Mayor Steele had mentioned was that our residential growth, I think, will drive some of our service businesses to move to town. They'll follow that populace to town. I think our industrial, I think is a little bit of a different question, whether you're talking manufacturing or other industrial. I think a lot of it comes down to honestly having land and land and or buildings that they're able to take advantage of. To your point earlier, we don't own any commercial land as a city. We don't have a developer that is necessarily playing the nicest with us when it comes to developing those commercial buildings. And I think we need to be able to turnkey and push property to a potential business in a relatively quick fashion.
All right, on to other topics. For our, excuse me, next question, we will start with Rod. Do you think we need an ambulance service in town? Why or why not?
Well, the safety of our citizens in an emergency, we have a fire department that does outstanding work. There's no question. We're honored to have them, and they do very well. We, as a long-term project, is an ambulance something that we could support financially? Maybe, maybe not. We're studying it right now. We just want to make sure that we're looking under every rock. We want to make sure that we're providing the best possible emergency services we can to the citizens of Pine Island. And that may involve an ambulance, it may not. It might be cost prohibitive, might not be able to do it. Zumbrota seems to pull it off. We're talking to them. We want to see how they're doing it. There's a tremendous expense involved with it, and but we're not closing the door. But that does not mean we're not very appreciative of what the fire department does and how they do it.
Does Pine Island need an ambulance service? I'm going to flat out say no. It's an extremely expensive service to provide, and we're not large enough to sustain that. There's a number of people in town that have questioned that because our fire department has one of the highest call volumes for a volunteer fire service in the state of Minnesota. We cover one of the largest areas. So with an ambulance service, we work with 3 ambulance agencies, West Concord, Zumbrota, and Gold Cross, and they provide a tremendous service. They do very well with their service. Our first responders are top-notch, and they provide the service that we need right now. Long-term down the road, when our city hits 20,000, 25,000 people, yes, then I'd be very much willing to look at providing an ambulance service. But for what we could do with that now, just servicing inside the city of Pine Island, that'd be covering approximately 130 calls. And you're talking about almost $1 million operation. So right now, our city cannot financially support that.
From recent attendance at city council meetings, I know this is being looked at. I've asked a couple of questions, but I have to be honest and just simply say I don't know enough yet about the situation to say, do we need one? I can speak from experience. Just last night, we had a guest at our house that was had an accident on Main Street. We had an amazing fire department response. We had amazing response from Zumbrota Ambulance. She was very well taken care of. You know, from there, I know it's being looked at. It's something that, you know, will need to continue to be looked at, and is that the right use of our dollars?
I think my opinion is no. And one being that territories are given by the state of Minnesota, and ambulance centers don't just pop up everywhere. They're granted, there's contracts, there's liability, and the fire department that we currently have serves all the needs of Pine Island at this point. And like Mike said, or like Dave said, probably for the next 15 to 20 years until the population exceeds to what we can support. We do have excellent trained staff. Our response time is really quick, 3 minutes or less, and in many cases. I don't see that happening myself in the near future.
I won't be redundant. I pretty much agree with what Bert and David had mentioned. There is several legal implications related to the service areas and how they work. We would more than likely have to partner with an existing ambulance service to actually provide one in Pine Island, which obviously there's several complications there. And to your point, just the overall expense for very little or no actual change in your overall medical service.
As I mentioned previously, I've been an emergency medical technician in a small town for 22 years. I think there's some things that aren't understood. I've also been an instructor and examiner for 12 years and worked with many, many of our services throughout the southeast Minnesota region. You can't just start an ambulance service. It doesn't work that way. EMSRB, the state of Minnesota, is involved. They grant the territories. They decide who has what territory and how much can be covered based on call volumes. In addition to that, if you get an ambulance, you are required by state law, in order to have that license, to have that ambulance staffed by 2 emergency medical technicians 24/7, 365. Small towns like Preston, Elgin, you name it, we are all having an extremely difficult time getting our services staffed, and I think that it would not be a feasible solution at this time for Pine Island.
All right. Just making sure I can read handwriting here. Gardening is experiencing a resurgence. How do you consider a home having a garden on their property? Do you support that? And for that question, we will start with David.
Do I support people having gardens on their property? Is the question? All right. I have a green thumb, so yes, I support gardens. This is a unique question because I'm not going to take my foot and step it on someone's property and tell them what they can and can't do when it comes to gardening. We have ordinances to control whether or not there's going to be a bunch of compost and how big and all that jazz. And, you know, interrupting your neighbor's wife. So I enjoy gardening. There's been some people I do lawn care here in town, and no, I'm not going to tell people if they can or can't have a garden on their property at this time. So I will pass it on.
I love it. It's not a business question. I think you should have a garden and sell the vegetables at the farmer's market. I wish I had a green thumb. I've threatened for several years now to grow a garden. So, yeah, I think what a person does on the land that they own or have rights to, as long as it's within city regulations, is, yeah, absolutely. I'll always vote in favor of gardens.
Interesting question for a small town. The big city, I don't think we ever saw a garden, but small town, everywhere I've lived in a small town around the country, we had a garden. The only garden I didn't appreciate was the neighbor's rock garden, which was rock in the whole yard, so he mowed absolutely zero. I support a garden in your yard.
Yeah, I agree. You do it on your own property, what you wish, basically, when it comes to a garden.
I'd love to know where this one came from. Yes, I definitely support gardening. It's something that I've grown up with all my life. In addition, I would love to be able to see a community space where individuals who may not have space of their own to have a garden might have an opportunity to have some things that they can grow and reap those benefits.
I support gardens.
That was a nice fast one. We'll hopefully actually get through every question that was submitted. So we have two more and then we'll go to closing. This one I slightly modified just to make sure that we can get good substantive answers rather than more yes or no. And for this question, we will start with Mike. What is your understanding of the time commitment being a council member and mayor would entail, and how will you meet those commitments?
I mentioned my family first because you don't consider doing this without their love and support. That was the biggest, the biggest, not hurdle, but the biggest consideration was the time. You know, and it is time away from your family. It's, you know, it's a few hours a month depending on, you know, the project or what's going on. But it's time well spent. I've always told myself that, you know, any time I spend volunteering in my community for the school, for the city, for our festival, you know, it's time well spent because I'm away from my family, but it benefits them. So yeah, I have a good understanding, you know, of the hours we may spend in a month, in a year. Yeah, and I'm willing to do that. That's why I'm running.
I think it's a big commitment. I put a big commitment on hold when I joined the fire department. I put off school, which was very important to me, but at the time I wanted to serve my community. I understand the council members may meet 2 times a month. I'm sure there will be emergency meetings from time to time. It's a commitment. I did not ask for a blessing from my family. I knew they would support me. I did ask for one for the fire department because I knew I needed that support. I knew it was a huge commitment time-wise, and I'm available for this commitment, and I'll be there 100% of the time.
As far as the time commitment, honestly, I'm assuming several hours per week. This is a part-time job is basically how I'm looking at it. Especially when you get into the busy times of the year, when you're talking about budgeting and some of that kind of stuff, and as you get large projects that are moving forward, yeah, like I said, I'm anticipating basically a part-time job, maybe sometimes full-time job, we'll see. And absolutely, to Mike's point, that was one of my initial conversations with the wife was to say, okay, how many nights a week can I be gone basically before, you know, I get in trouble? And so her and my kids, like I said, you know, obviously looking at our future and we plan on being here, it wasn't important to her for me to take this endeavor on as well.
I think in the position of mayor, it really is a full-time job. You are responsible for your community and you need to be available to them when they have need of you. That being said, normal commitment would be several meetings a month, several hours per week working on projects. When larger things come up, or in the case of things like the emergency that we had in 2010 with the flooding, you need to be there all the time. You need to be first and foremost, and you need to be the face of the city and a place for your constituents to place their trust and to be available to them whenever they need you.
This is the exact reason that I made that comment to start out tonight. Everyone at this table is willing to give up their time away from their families and whatever other activities they might have to serve the community. That's very admirable. That's something that small towns survive on. As mayor, it is a full-time consciousness. You know, you're not working as a mayor every hour of every day, but you have to have it, as Tammy just said, you have to have that consciousness. You have to be accessible. I happen to have a job where I work in town, and I am typically here probably 70% of the time. So I am accessible, and I am reachable. I have to be in my business, so I answer my phone, and I return emails, and I do that kind of thing. And that's Brian shaking his head. So, yeah, thanks again, candidates. Wonderful for you to do that.
Time commitment. A lot of reading. If you want to be knowledgeable on the subject matter that you're going to be discussing, whether it's on the committee or at the council meeting, there's a lot of reading. I was warned about that. And I also remember when my father was on the council, he spent a lot of nights reading because he wanted to be informed. And that's one thing I've always admired. I have the luxury of being able to spend some of that time making sure I'm prepared and being able to be intelligent in my answers and being knowledgeable of the material. Also, when you're on the city council, yes, you are a council member at the meeting, but then there's times when you're out enjoying time with your family or with your friends, people see you, they're going to gravitate towards you and, hey, did you hear about this? And you're going to engage them. And you have that opportunity to be informed and to answer their questions.
All right, for our final question of the evening. For this question, we will start with Albert. Projects like the development of a new swimming pool takes leadership from the mayor and council. What is your position on the pool? And if you support it, how should it be funded? Please be specific.
I'm a supporter of the new pool. I look around us and I see other communities that have pools. I think there are opportunities to get funding out there outside of Pine Island, but the only way you're going to get them is by applying for them, whether they're grants, low interest loans, what have you. The bottom line is we all need to work together on this. There needs to be communication. There needs to be a feasibility study. If your feasibility study costs too much, that means you shouldn't do your project. That's where I stand on it.
Yeah, I'm for the new pool. I'm a young father in town. I have 4 little kids. Several of them use the pool literally every day in the summer. How we pay for it is the big question as far as I'm concerned. And how we pay for it, I think is a combination. I think there's an opportunity, honestly, and I've mentioned this a couple times. I think there's opportunity to squeeze some dollars out of our existing budget, honestly. I think there's the potential opportunity to delay some of our other capital projects potentially into the future to help offset some of those costs. And the other piece of that is a potential raise in taxes, which nobody wants to hear, including myself. But I think that is one of the other options.
I am a supporter of a new pool. We need to have a place for our families, both present and future, to gather and have some fun. That being said, I think, as was said, we have some opportunities for learning that we could gain some understanding and experience from communities around us that have successfully made new aquatic centers, new pools, how they developed their funding, how they developed their projects and looked at placement, things like that. And I think there's some learning opportunity there and some exploration that needs to be done before we set on a finalized plan.
I am a supporter of a pool. I think it needs to be healthy. I think it needs to be safe. I think it needs to be compliant. We have a lot of projects that we need to accomplish. We could forego the Southwest Street project. It's a mess, but we could, and we could build a pool. It's going to be up to the voters this fall. We left it open on a referendum to decide if they want to go for a pool. And if they do, we'll have to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and how much we're going to spend. A pool is a quality of life issue, just like our parks. We lose money every year in a pool, lots of money, $80,000 bucks. But it's a quality of life. It gives Craig's children an opportunity to enjoy the town. We have to give people reasons to live in Pine Island. The pool is one of them. I'm not sure, as we look around to the big projects that have, I'd like to keep talking.
Does Pine Island need a $2.4 million pool right now? No. I am scared of that number. I think there's a much more economical way of getting a pool. There's, in my newspaper comments, I said that our town does not need to be competing with all these other towns for an aquatic center. The pool's open about 2.5 months out of the year. but we need a pool. So how do we do that? Let's find a more economical way. One of the ways I like to, if you need to be specific, is if you go to the Ellsworth swimming pool. What their town did, the city went forward and made the hard decision of building a pool without all the extras. And then what the town can do after that, if they want to slide, if they want the diving boards, if they want all those extras, then we can raise funds and have the community make that effort. If you want them, then we're going to support them and let's raise the money to do that. But let's do it economically and let's do it financially responsible.
I have children that use the pool, one almost daily. We've bought a pool pass every year for, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 years. I use the pool. I'm a huge supporter of the pool. I've always had in the back of my mind that I would love one of these big aquatic centers. I still would. I think it has a draw to town. I think it's good for businesses. Could be if people come to town, maybe from outside of town to swim in your pool, they're going to spend money in town. Unfortunately, a pool at this point, right at this very time, is a, you know, when you look at wants and needs, it's more of a want. The need part, we need to make it compliant, safe. We need to make it not leak water, right? The things that are costing us money to run it, and expand on it, as David said, you know, from there, as we have the resources to do so or fundraise to do so.
All right, that is it for our questions for the evening. So we are going to start with Craig for 1 minute to concluding thoughts, I guess would be the best way to do it.
I would just start by saying thanks for everybody coming out, and a couple follow-up items to the pool. Actually, now that since I had my minute, I do think it's important for the pool. I hesitate to band-aid together what we have now and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars that in a few years down the road we're going to basically throw away and build a new pool. If that's the approach, let's just close it and be done, honestly. I don't like to waste money and then throw it away later. Anyways, like I said, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. It was a great opportunity for me to get some hard questions and try to come up with some quick answers. And I look forward to answering any questions anybody else has. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
I thank you all for the opportunity to come and speak with you this evening. I look forward to the vote in November, and if elected, I promise to do my very best for the city of Pine Island and its residents.
I also thank you all. It's been an honor to be your mayor for the last 4 years. I've done my best. I put a lot into it. Everybody doesn't always agree with the decisions the council makes, but we're 5 guys with full-time jobs, except for Jerry, that are doing their best to make the town better. There's no partisanship. There's no politics. It's about 5 people doing what they think is best for the community, and I've been honored to be part of that group, and I thank you all for coming.
It's a privilege to finally be able to sit at the candidate table and answer some questions from my fellow Pine Islanders and a few visitors I noticed from out of town. So I thank you for that opportunity. And I want to reiterate that I look forward, if elected to the council, to have that privilege to serve the community. I'm not coming in here guns ablaze and trying to make all these drastic changes. I want to carry on what our town and our council has done. And I want to make sure we have that smooth transition and just carry on and have that opportunity as a younger member of this community and bring in maybe some new ideas to the council and be accountable to our taxpayers with that. So thank you for your attention and your questions tonight.
I'm going to take just a few seconds here and just, as I mentioned, expand on a couple of things that I think I missed in my opening statement. Just a little more about myself. I mentioned, obviously, my work with the Cheese Festival. I'm so proud of that. I've served multiple terms on council at the Lutheran Church here in town. You know, a Boy Scout leader for 8 years. Currently a high school wrestling coach, volunteer when I can find time for that. you know, I love working in our community. Just fun things I've done throughout the years. I was asked by a previous principal to put a group together to install the playground equipment that was new not long after we moved here, probably 2005, 2006. That was fun. I was asked by the school to be on a hiring committee to hire an early education teacher. She's still here. Liz Bemke is some of the best work I've probably ever done in this town. I'm excited to take the next step.
Thank you all for coming and giving me the opportunity to speak to you and answer questions. I think one of the goals that I look forward as a candidate and hopefully elected council member is to bring best practices, financial responsibility. I don't think it's a lot of fun to spend taxpayers' money, your money. I don't even like spending my own money. I think responsibility is a very difficult role in this position when there are needs and there are wants, and you have to pick and choose what's most important and prioritize that. I think that being said, I think Pine Island is a great place to live. It's a great place to work. I look for a great future for Pine Island and growth, and I hope that everybody here supports Pine Island. Whichever decision it goes, we have to suffer the pain together like our grandparents did, our forefathers. Thank you very much.
We are now at the end of our time for this forum. We want to thank all of the candidates for an informative event. If anyone needs information on becoming a registered voter, please call your county auditor or the Pine Island City Clerk. If you are not registered to vote in Minnesota, Minnesota does have voter registration at the polls. Please check the Minnesota Secretary of State's website on the process for Election Day registration, as several items of identification must be provided on Election Day to election judges. MNLWV.org is also a website you may use to find general voter service information. Please vote. The general election is on Tuesday, November 8th. The polls are open at 7 a.m. through 8 p.m. Thank you. Have a good evening. And let's give all these wonderful candidates a round of applause.